Return of the Mount Hua Sect. Chapter 271. So prestigious sects don't have heads. Shaolin was one of the largest known temple sects in the world. Shaolin's status in Gangho was huge, but its status on the Central Plains was no less than that. Ever since the Dharma began to preach about Buddhism in the land, Shaolin had become a sacred place for almost all its people. Of course, the scale was also so massive that no such similar places could be found elsewhere. And now, this huge Shaolin temple has been stuffed so full of people that there was no room to move comfortably. Don't push! I'm here, you people! Who brought that chair? Who brings a chair to such a small place? Are you crazy? The number of people who were here to participate in the competition wasn't small, but compared to the number of people who came to see the spars, that number was nothing. Should we watch like this? I don't know. There hasn't been such a thing in 100 years. If we don't see it now, there is no guarantee that we will see it in another 100 years. Even when my neck cracks, I need to watch it. From the first day of the competition, there was no space to walk. Because of this, even after all 1,000 monks were mobilized, they had a hard time controlling people. Wow, look at the number of people. Jogul was shocked as he looked around. The area where the participants waited and the area where the spectators were seated was only separated by a red line. Thanks to this, the sects who were participating could sit comfortably. The competition is in the sparring training hall? Right. At Yunjong's answer, Jogul narrowed his eyes and looked around. The hall is smaller than I thought. I thought it would be different because this is Shaolin. Cool. Yes, Sayong. Look to the side. Huh? Jogul turned his head. In front of the densely crowded place, several more markings were laid on the ground, like an area for the spar to happen. We will use all that? Looks like it. What the? Yunjong shrugged. There are close to 20 sects who got the platinum letter. Then, there are only 400 individuals participating. If it was the gold, silver, and bronze letters, then the participants would be over 1,000. 1,000? Jogul was shocked. Jogul opened his mouth wide, and Yunjong nodded. That was why the invitations were needed. If they let in all those who wanted to participate, it would take around 3.5 months to get all the results. Wow. Jogul was now feeling the influence of this place. But 1,000 participants. When will all of them get their chance? It seems like the preliminary rounds will be held in roughly 2 days. After that, they said we will move to a central training hall and hold the finals. There will be around 100 people left after that. 100? Jogul grabbed the sword on his waist. 100 people. I need to be among them. Although the goal was to climb as high as possible, the rank in the initial spar wasn't determined by skills. If you were against a possible winner on the first round, wasn't it just a bizarre situation of being eliminated right away? What if there was a situation where one got eliminated in the early stages due to bad luck? I don't even want to imagine this. That bastard will chew me alive. Throughout the time, all the way back to Mount Hua. Even after heading back to Mount Hua. If I lose, Chongming will beat me down. Are you worried about that? Huh? It looks like you're fighting with the elites of the other sects, but you don't even seem worried about that. At Yunjong's words, Jogul glanced around. The disciples of the prestigious sects were all with bright eyes and enthusiastic looks. The aura they were exuding was enough to know just how strict their training must have been. If it was Jogul of the past, he would have been shocked at this sight, because they were the distinguished disciples of a sect he couldn't even imagine. Was it a little different now? Well, it was true that the status of Mount Hua had risen a lot, but Jogul hadn't really felt that it changed their outlook. Because there was no one who looked at the disciples of Mount Hua with envy, and no one gave him special treatment. Still, well, Sayong. Huh? I think it will be strange to say this, but don't they look easy? Yunjong, who glanced at the other participants, smiled. Of course they look easy. Still, they're called disciples of prestigious sects. Is there anyone like Chongmyung among them? There can't be two such people in this world. Right? We live with that bastard every day, so why would we be afraid of anyone? Even if you see a monster with 3 heads or 6 heads, I don't think we'll be scared. Right. They were the disciples who feared the hands of Chongmyung and didn't fear anything else. So when does the competition start? It is about to start. Yunjong pointed forward. Following the gesture, he turned to see a Shaolin monk walking. He had a reverent posture, and once he had reached destination, he then raised his head, looking at the people gathered there. The hall, which was noisy, went silent in an instant. The Shaolin monk, who drew everyone's attention, spoke with a heavy voice. I would like to express my gratitude to the disciples of each sect who took their precious time to come and participate in this competition, and to all those who came to watch it too. I am a Shaolin monk, Gongcho. At the name Gongcho, whispers arose. Then he is the immovable fist, Gongcho. Among the Gong disciples of Shaolin, Gongcho was one of the most famous ones. He was one of the representative martial artists of Shaolin who dealt with a lot of evildoers in the past with his high skills and yet was known to be rarely violent. No one could hide their excitement at the fact that such a person was conducting these spars. And I would like to thank the sect leaders who graced us with this event. Gongcho turned to the high podium on one side of the hall. The sect leaders of each sect were seated there. They were all greeted with cheers and claps. Yunjong smiled at this. Sect leader must be in a good mood. No, Sayong. He must be very uncomfortable, right? Is that so? Right. Hyunjong wasn't in a position to be used to all of this. If you think about it, the sect leaders for Jongnam and the Wudang sect are sitting on either side. He will gulp down his water. Right. Then we need to make sure he stays there comfortably. Yes. At that moment, Gongcho spoke with a voice full of strength. From now on, we will be holding the Worldly Murim competition. Those who are called up, go out to your designated place. And the circles there were prepared fairly in the presence of each sect leader, so no complaints will be accepted. Baekchun clenched his hand at that. It starts. He took a few deep breaths and looked at the ground with sunken eyes. In the distance, he could see the Jongnam sect disciples gathered around. Jin Geumryung and his father would also be there. Chongmyung noticed Baekchun. Trembling? Of course I am. Huh? Chongmyung tilted his head at Baekchun, who calmly acknowledged it. Baekchun continued in a calm voice. We are given the chance to show the sword of Mount Hua to the world. How can I not tremble? I am having a hard time calming my nerves. What? You can do some pretty cool things too. Take it easy. Calm down. Don't make mistakes while trying too hard. Chongmyung. People like Sasuk fail when they try too hard to do something. Chongmyung. Don't pretend you aren't them and calm down. No, brat. Huh? Baekchun pointed behind Chongmyung with his chin. You're being called. Huh? Chongmyung looked back. On the ground, a monk who was assisting the matches was screaming at the top of his lungs. Manhua's Chongmyung! Is Manhua's Chongmyung here? No, where is he? The spar will start. Startled, he raised his hand. Here! I'm here! He jumped down and the monk asked, Where did you go? I didn't go anywhere. Hurry up and come into the circle. Your opponent has been waiting for you. Yes, yes. Chongmyung rushed out. The opponent was really waiting for him. Hello. Huh? Chongmyung, who checked his opponent, tilted his head. Why do you look familiar? Did we meet before? Chongmyung's opponent. Hua Kwanso, the great disciple of the Hainan sect, bit his teeth. Damn Manhua bastard. Even if you look down on people, this is too much. We only just met 2 days back. How can you forget me? Ah, the one from back then. The one who flew back with one hit. That was why I couldn't remember your face. You. Hua Kwanso trembled and took a deep breath. Where did you sell your sword? Huh? Chongmyung looked at his waist. Ah. Seeing his waist empty, Chongmyung checked where he sat and saw that Baekchun was holding his sword. Here. Baekchun threw the sword over and Chongmyung caught it in the air and quickly put it at his waist. Hua Kwanso was a bit stunned at that. A swordsman carries his sword at all times. Didn't Mount Hua teach you that? You're not amazing enough to involve yourself in another sect's education, right? What? You are the... Okay, let's start. Chongmyung, who touched his sword, cracked his neck to the left and right. Crack. He didn't think he would be called out at the start, but this wasn't a bad thing either. On the other side of the circle, Hua Kwanso had drawn his sword. Sring! You are running around wildly, not knowing the difference between heaven and earth. This is good. I was just waiting for the chance to get my revenge on the Mount Hua jerks, and the heavens are helping me. As long as I have my sword, I will show that Mount Hua is no opponent to Hainan. Ah, yes. Try your best. I will cheer for you too. Hua Kwanso clenched his teeth. But this time, he wasn't going to be careless. Calm down. Hadn't he already experienced what happens when he rushes ahead without thought? Nothing good comes from being hit like that. If he has to show something, it has to be with his sword. There were a lot of spars happening in 10 other circles, and the eyes of the people were focused on Chongmyung and Hua Kwanso. Everyone who heard of their recent fight had to watch this. Will Hainan take their revenge? You don't know? That man is called Mount Hua's Divine Dragon. Do you not know that he is the most talked about person here? Huh? That one is a Divine Dragon. He doesn't look that good. You can't tell how good someone's skills are just by their appearance. Couldn't it be just a rumor? Isn't that something we will know when we watch the fight? Everyone looked there with the same feeling. On the other hand, at some point, Mount Hua's disciple Chongmyung had earned his name as quick as the wind. On the other hand, one of the 9 great sects One Union's Hainan sect's disciple, Hua Kwanso, was pushed out by Mount Hua in a fight of fists. No matter how famous Mount Hua's Divine Dragon was, defeating the great disciple of the Hainan could not be easy. Let's start the spar! With a loud cry, the people in the circle moved. To restore the honor of the Hainan, Hua Kwanso kept telling that to himself. With that appearance, no one could think that the past gossip about him being taken down in one hit was true. They were sure he would win. He calmed down. Huh? Hua Kwanso's eyes widened. Suddenly, it felt like the world had gone dark. Huh? Dark? The world? Witchcraft? No. Hua Kwanso realized it quickly. This wasn't the world turning dark, but his sight being blocked by something. Fortunately, he managed to recognize what it was. The sole of a shoe. But it was too late. Kwang! The foot of Chongmyung struck him in the face. Hua Kwanso screamed like a pig and bounced over the line. Swish! What? Wow! The others, who were in their own circles and fighting, all were startled and avoided the Hua Kwanso cannonball, which was whistling through the air. Flying through 9 more sparring circles, he crashed into the wall at the end of the hall. Kong! Everyone there looked at the man with blank eyes. No, to be precise, they looked at the body which was stuck into the wall. Even those who were in the middle of their fights lowered their weapons and looked at it. Before long, the eyes moved from him to where Chongmyung was, and Chongmyung shook his head as he mumbled. You couldn't get your mind straight even after being hit by my Sasuk. How dare you think in front of me? Did he have a death wish? Chongmyung shook his head a couple of times and looked at Gongcho. I won, right? It ended. Can I come out? Gongcho nodded his head and said loudly, in the first spar, the disciple of Mount Hua, Chongmyung, has won. At the same time as those words came out, the silence broke. Whoa! Oh my! One hit! Mount Hua's divine dragon! The day has come when I saw such a fight with my eyes. This is the best! Mount Hua's divine dragon! Chongmyung shrugged and headed out as he received cheers from the people and stood in front of the disciples of Mount Hua. See that? Huh? You need to do just that. Yeah, that was helpful. Thank you so much, Chongmyung.